So Eddie Howe just met the press down here ahead of Newcastle's Sunday clash with Liverpool. Inevitably was asked many questions about his relationship with Jurgen Klopp, Newcastle's ongoing rivalry with Liverpool. No surprise that Eddie Howe played most of that down, said he hasn't really got any rivalry with any manager, never mind Jurgen Klopp. So the one thing that he did ask for was the Newcastle fans to serve up that atmosphere that Liverpool will have to deal with at the weekend, using the term red hot as the best Newcastle can get in terms of, you know, those big games at St James's Park. So a huge game in prospect, 1-0 defeat against Manchester City at the weekend, disappointing in some ways, but Newcastle at least showed the defensive solidity. They'll need that, and they'll need to pick up against Liverpool in the final third, that end product which was missing against Man City. But overall, as I said at the weekend, nothing to worry about. If Newcastle beat Liverpool, it's been an amazing start to the season. Eddie Howe in upbeat mood, knows that he's bringing the team together, building the team, building the squad, and things are positive here. So Newcastle back in Premier League action at the weekend against Liverpool. 6 or 7 days on now from that defeat against Manchester City. How have people sort of digested it? Well, I think defensively you can't really knock the way Newcastle played. They kept the score down to 1, so they gave themselves a platform to get a point or maybe more. It was in the final third where they flattered to deceive. A lot of, you would say, disappointing performances. If we're being totally honest, Newcastle only forcing 1 shot on target, which came very late in the game. But it was an opportunity. It was an opportunity to get something against one of the top teams, and Newcastle didn't take it. So that's not hammering anybody or, you know, being overly critical. It's just looking at that game in isolation and saying, you know, this Newcastle team have grown so much that, you know, they can go into these games and believe they can get something. And sadly, they weren't able to do it this time, but, you know, they're getting a little bit closer. Okay, you could say, had Erling Haaland had a better night in front of goal, then, you know, the scoreline might have been heavier. But it wasn't, and the game was open right until the end for Newcastle to get something. So I think they can take a lot of encouragement from that game last weekend, and it just sets them up for this weekend. And I think managers, and especially Eddie Howe, will, you know, not be too worried that Newcastle didn't get anything from the game. He'll be more concerned that, you know, there was something to build on and something to take forward. And as he said in his press conference today, it's room to improve. And I think that's what they've got to do against Liverpool at the weekend. So a lot was made in the press conference about Jurgen Klopp, the rivalry, what's happened between these two teams in the past. And yeah, Eddie Howe kind of unsurprisingly steering away from it, saying that he doesn't believe there is any strong, intense rivalry between the two teams. Me personally, looking at it, I think there's a lot of hype goes into these games because of what's happened in the past. You know, you're going way back. You're going back 30 years to Liverpool against Newcastle, or the 4-3s, and it always comes up again. It's an easy hook for certain sort of aspects of the media, just to build up this rivalry between the two teams. Personally, I think Liverpool can see Newcastle are kind of marching up the hill a little bit, and, you know, Jurgen Klopp especially can probably see Newcastle are going to be a threat in the years to come, given the investment Newcastle have got. Look, they've nearly spent £400 million on players. They're majorly improved in a short space of time, and that's only going to get bigger and better. So of course it's going to be a threat to one of the top 4, and of course it's going to be a threat to Liverpool overall. But at the minute, Newcastle have proved nothing. They haven't even been able to beat Liverpool under the Eddie Howe era. So he'll be desperate to change that. He's had a couple of goes at it. Came very close to getting at least a point last season at Anfield. The Liverpool visit here back in February, the week before the cup final, I don't think that was the best Newcastle display we've seen, but it was majorly factored by Nick Pope sending off, which was referenced in the press conference today. So For Eddie Howe, I think he's in a good place going into this game. Seems to be looking forward to it. And for me, I said it before. I said it at the training ground. If Newcastle can get a win against Liverpool, then 6 points from 9, when you consider they've played Liverpool and City in the first 3, is an amazing start to the season. 6 points, fantastic start, and nobody would complain about it, and everybody, had they been offered it when the fixture list was released, would have taken that. So if they can get a win, then it's been a great start. A draw is still a very decent start, a very steady start. 4 points from 9 when you factor in the teams that they've got. And I think really, I even think 4 points from 9 is a great start. When you consider the fixture list, again, Liverpool, Man City, Villa in the first 3, to get 4 points from those games is still a big achievement. Newcastle lost, then I think, then people are going to probably go a little bit negative on it, because they've got Brighton away next, which is a tough fixture. I think in many ways you can be more concerned about Brighton away than Liverpool at home, the way Brighton are going. So, look, it's going to be a tough game at the weekend. Liverpool have increased their quality levels over the summer. Newcastle themselves have obviously improved, but I think it's going to be a tough Liverpool team to play. They're going to be a Liverpool team that have got a point to prove because of what happened last season. They had a bad season by their standards, and nobody can build them up too much. What they achieved, they just scraped into the Europa League in the end. Didn't get in the Champions League. That's not good enough by their standards. That's the level that Newcastle want to get at. They want to be at that level where they're disappointed with not even qualifying for the top 4. So, tough game in prospect. One, Newcastle can win. I think they can win. I think the atmosphere will be jumping by the time the game kicks off on Sunday. I think Man City can be quickly forgotten. And I think certain performances from the City game can be quickly forgotten, and players can redeem themselves in this fixture. So I still think Newcastle got loads of quality. I think if it's going wrong, I think Eddie Howe will probably look to change it, but he's got the options to do that now. So who might start the game? Difficult to say, because again, it wasn't a complete nightmare against Man City. But really, if I was looking at any area where there could be changes, then, Harvey Barnes has got to be knocking on the door for a start. So that could mean Anthony Gordon is benched, but we'll have to wait and see. Anthony Gordon had a very good game in the last home game against Villa, and Barnes came on and replaced him, scoring one and making one. So that one's neck and neck, really. Miguel Almiron didn't have a great game for me against Man City. Worked hard without any end product. Isaac as well had probably a disappointing game by his standards. Does Callum Wilson, come in? If you don't bring him in now, when do you bring him in? So, look, it's there's lots of options there. I'm not knocking any of those 3 players, but I do think that could be an area where Eddie Howe will at least be thinking about changing things. Defensively sound, midfield was okay, I suppose, against Man City, but some disappointed faces as a team came off the pitch there. So look, it's going to be a tough one, but one Newcastle can definitely get something from. One where I think the atmosphere is going to be key. The start to the game, bring back in the Nick Pope factor from last season when he got sent off. That turned the game. Need to avoid all that kind of stuff. But overall, a real opportunity for Newcastle to complete the first 3 games in August and potentially do it with a little bit of credit. Hopefully they can win. If they can get 6 points from 9, absolutely no panic at St James's Park.